Hi, Eric here of Ion Software. Welcome to this tutorial, a guide to creating animated volume fog. Let's say you want to create a nicely lit flak explosion in mid-air. Definitely a moving volume. Now how would that work in Fusion? Let's recap for a moment. A fog volume is made out of different slices in order to define the look along the z-axis. Using just one slice would make the fog look like an extruded version of that slice. Using different slices that change every frame would result in a traveling volume. Both approaches don't deliver the look we're after. We need to create moving slices that actually freeze in time for the amount of slices we need for the volume, then change their state, then hold still for another set of slices again, and so on. Let's take this particle system as an example. When playing back, you can see how the explosion looks over 100 frames. But, as said before, when we would just use the output of the 3D render to create our fog volume, we would end up with an extruded looking version of a single frame, or a static volume. We need to actually cut each frame of the particle animation into a set of slices. For this example, we will create 20 slices per frame. To achieve that, we use this Time 3D fuse, which is included in the download link. It basically works like Fusion's time stretcher, but for 3D scenes. Looking at the spline, we see that the Time 3D holds the status of the scene for 20 frames, then advances one frame and holds that for another 20 frames. Let's examine the camera. The near and far clip values are animated via a simple expression and two custom sliders. These allow to adjust the thickness of each slice as well as the z-depth the slice is sampled from. In addition to that, I attached a matte object to the camera's far clip position to cut off everything behind that plane. If we press play now, you can see what's going on. The particle animation holds its state for 20 frames. The camera cuts through the particles creating 20 slices, and the particle animation advances one frame. Since the duration of the original particle animation was 100 frames, but we now cut each frame into 20 slices, we need to render a sequence of 2000 frames in total. If we now bring these 2000 frames into our VolumeFog tool, there's one last thing we have to do, and that is animating the first slice time slider. Since we want to use 20 slices per frame, this can simply be set to time multiplied by 20. Also make sure the Z slices are set to 20 as well. Now we have an exploding volume, which can be very easily placed at any location of your scene, which can be rotated, scaled and lit to taste. Of course, this slicing technique could also be used for other purposes. Imagine you want to create fog directly in the 3D space by placing some objects like so. Just set up a static particle system, define the particle emitter's region to utilize the volume of the connected mesh, and slice your camera through the scene to create the according volume. Of course, this also works with imported 3D geometry, like in this case our well-known spider. VolumeFog can be used for a plethora of effects and techniques, as you can see here. Since you now understand how volumes work, you can easily incorporate additional elements anywhere in the volume, like this Text Plus tool, being merged into a 60 frame deep volume only for a few frames. Moving the spline points of the merge actually changes the depth of the text in the volume. Increasing the number of frames the merge operates on changes the amount of extrusion on the text. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more tutorials.